So right now there seems to be a bit of a holy trinity for rebel leaders. You've got Jean and Theon, who I've already done videos on explaining why they're so good, and then Enzo. Jean and Theon work for every formation, Enzo not so much for spearmen, but does bows, cav, and infantry, because you really want him to be the tank to make the most out of his abilities, whereas Jean can be in the back row if necessary. She doesn't need to be the tank. Enzo by himself, he's a very efficient purchase as it is, even to lower rarities. Outside of Awakening, he's the best cavalry commander in the game, I guess. Lena and Layla Awakened will obviously be better, and I think even Rob, even if he's a backliner, at 4-star will be better than him just because of the active damage and cooldown. He also has combat rate in the Tavern, which is obviously a very strong stat, makes him very good. At least buying him to green, blue, grey, it's very efficient combat rate from him. His abilities themselves, obviously they won't make him so good for rebel leaders. His first ability is very simple, just a line ability that does damage, double damage against infantry. Not much to think about there, just bonus damage. And his third and fourth abilities are a bit of tankiness, which plays into wanting him as tank. And then this second ability is what makes him so good. So his attack increases by 1% for every 1% of his health lost, but the interesting dynamic about this is when he gets healed, the attack buff isn't lost. So if he drops down to 10% health, he will gain the attack buff like he's at 10% health, but even if he's healed back up to 100, he will still keep the buff and still be doing huge amounts of buff DPS. And that makes him so strong for rebel leaders. He's interesting in that at higher rarities he can actually become worse for rebels, because the way that ability works is you want him taking as much damage as possible while still keeping him alive throughout the whole fight. So at gold, just because his health and defense get buffed a bunch, he can actually be worse than green, blue, purple for rebels. Except maybe on 5s, he's decent on 5s. But for the lower level of rebels, green, blue seems to be about the sweet spot. Obviously you want him for PvP stats, you want to max him anyway, and you just have to live with it, but it means he can still be useful for even lower spending players. And we can go watch a report and show why that ability is so good, because you can see the graphics overlays of it persisting through hills. So there he is. This will be kind of awkward to watch because him and Jean will be stacked up and they'll be over the top of each other like that. You see each of these plus signs on the attack is his passive stacking up, and you can see it doesn't disappear even when his health jumps up. There's still 3 there. It keeps going up, keeps going up, keeps going up. I mean, it's just going off the screen. It'll probably bug in a second too, it often does, and just disappears. But his attack ramps up so much through that ability, and he does so much damage. And if you have him, you want to be using him in every rebel leader formation against cavalry, infantry, and bowmen if you can. You might have to find the sweet spot, play around with formations. You'll really have to watch reports and see what you need to do to be able to keep him alive while still at low healths. Maybe swap in and out stuff like Egbert or Marjorie with Jean just to play with his health and see how much damage you can heal and absorb whilst still funneling as much damage as you can onto him.